Ag Bioscience, the #1 ag tech podcast globally, is now available on video. Hear from leaders and innovators across food, animal health, plant science, ag tech, and agriculture. Mondays at 6 a.m. on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, subscribe and leave us a review. It's the Ag Bioscience Podcast with Agronovis Indiana. Get more information at agronovisindiana.com.
The internet changed how we work. AI is changing what work gets done. A bank cut loan processing from days to hours. A student built an AI scheduler, improving on-time delivery from under 70% to over 90%. Most teams know AI matters, but aren't sure where to start. InAI is Indiana's statewide AI adoption effort, built with industry, academia, and community partners, helping you move from understanding to action. Visit inaiready.com.
This is the IBJ Podcast for the week of June 29th, 2026, brought to you by Taft. I'm your host, Mason King. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Last week, an international alliance of intelligence agencies released a warning about the evolution of AI and how it soon will be able to overwhelm cyber protections used by governments and businesses. This will happen within a matter of months, according to the group, not years. And companies should take an all-hands-on-deck approach to the threat. That means significant involvement from owners, top executives, and other leaders. To get a sense of the gravity of the warning, I invited cybersecurity expert Chetrice Romero to be our guest this week. Romero started her career in public relations, but developed expertise in cybersecurity as a state and federal employee. Her positions have included Cybersecurity Program Director for the Indiana Office of Technology and the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity Advisor and State Coordinator for the Federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. She currently works for the law firm Ice Miller, helping clients prepare for cyber attacks and their aftermath. In this week's podcast, Romero explains the risks involved in the looming AI-related threat and why the time to prepare is now. She also shares what she learned from her somber experience on the rescue team for the Surfside condo building collapse in 2021. Here's our conversation. It's my pleasure to welcome to the podcast Chetrice Romero, Senior Cybersecurity Advisor for law firm Ice Miller. Thanks for making the time to come to the studio today.
Happy to be here.
So I want to start with something that is top of mind for me. Here is what I know, which is never very much, but here's what I know. An international alliance of intelligence agencies released a warning earlier this week about the potential for artificial intelligence technology to progress to the point where it could overwhelm the cyber protections currently in place for governments and business. The group is known as Five Eyes. Not five guys, Five Eyes. And it's comprised of intelligence officials from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. If there is a takeaway from their 3-page warning, I would say it's that companies need to improve their defenses against cyber attacks as soon as possible, because this AI-based threat is coming within months, not years. So that's all I got. Please translate the warning that we got. What were they really telling us?
So I think it's important to understand the context of when those advisories come out, right? So when I worked for the Federal Homeland Security CISA agency, which is a cybersecurity infrastructure security agency, I know they love security. They said it twice. But when you look at those advisories, even nationally, and it's CISA, in big DHS, it takes a lot of bureaucratic line. Like there's a lot of tape to go through for any agencies to put just things together internally, much less across agencies within the same country. When something comes out from Five Eyes, you have to then take a step back even further and say, this was so important that not just one, but 5 countries and their top cybersecurity or intelligence officials all agree that this is important, and they're stomping their feet without giving away how they know everything they know. So these people have the highest clearances. They get the information that none of us really want to know because we probably wouldn't sleep very well. I know I didn't sleep well when I was read into a lot of things.
Yeah.
Especially I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally the only person in Indiana who knows this. This is not, I don't even want to know this. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I can't tell anyone. Like, it's a very stressful place to be in. Most certainly grateful to be aware and so that you can be strategic. But when Five Eyes issues advisories, they are foot stomping, saying this is not just something to consider. This is not just something to keep in mind. This is foot stomping. You need to do something now.
Right. But what was it that they were trying to tell me, or trying to tell medium and small business owners, local government heads, you name it?
Yeah. Well, AI has its pros and cons. It is truly a double-edged sword, and it's something that is changing it will change the way that we do business, much like the World Wide Web did, right? Just like social media did. The difference is AI is increasing exponentially more than any of those technologies ever did. I mean, it's moving faster than the Industrial Revolution in our country. It's moving faster than any type of other technology. You know, what took maybe 10, 15 years, 5 years for social media, 10, 15 years for the word processor. With AI, it's taking months. And then now that it's kind of really going, it's been here, right, for a minute, but
we mean that in terms of like how quickly it's evolving?
How quickly it's evolving, how it's being used personally and also with businesses. So what they're trying to say is, as much as we're using it to be more efficient at our jobs, and hey, I don't have to spend several days going through my email and figuring out what my priorities are. I can just have AI do that, right? Bad actors are also using it for making their jobs very efficient. So when updates or zero vulnerabilities, which means a technology has a vulnerability that not even they knew about, but now it's been exploited and it wasn't discovered by the person who made the technology. So let's use Microsoft, for example, right? A lot of us use Microsoft, right? Especially business. And they have a great market on there, but the weakness there is that so many of us use it that if a bad actor finds a vulnerability, and it happens quite a bit because Microsoft is just such a huge cog machine, right? So something always, something gets missed. Then now you don't have to be a ones and zeros coder as a hacker. You're no longer like, what we imagine, at least me. I imagine that like person in the basement with the like hoodie, just doing like the crazy coding and like something it's like another language. Like all they need to do is input the advisory in and to AI modeling and say, how can I exploit this the most? Oh, and now I can go and quickly create searches and AI creates the code for me. So I don't even have to be a coder. I just have to be nefarious with that information. And that now, has really decreased the amount of time between the good guys knowing that there's a problem and the bad guys going and exploiting it. And so a lot of the advisory from the Five Eyes is saying, we need to make sure that this is being addressed at an operational level as a business. So the CEOs, the operations people, it is no longer the IT people. They can only do so much, but the resilience of the organization, the resilience of the business, that lies actually always with leadership. Here's a good example, because I think sometimes when it comes to cybersecurity, people don't think they think it's ones and zeros, and that's not me, right? If a tornado goes through, and we have those a lot here in Indiana, tornado goes through and wipes out your building, right? Whose job is that going to be?
To fix the building?
No, to just address that it's going to be the leadership, right? The CEO is going to be involved in telling the employees what to do. The CEO is going to be involved in figuring out how to fix the building.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like if I own a warehouse.
Right, yes,
okay.
yeah. It's not going to be the building manager who's figuring out all of that stuff to get you back up and running, right? It's going to be the leadership team, right?
Right.
When it comes to cybersecurity, it's that too. It's if you're attacked and your business is now affected by that, and now you can't pay employees, and people typically get very grumpy when they can't get paid, right? Or now information is breached and you're dealing with that legal matter, right? Or we're ransomware and we can't sell or we can't do anything and our website is down, right? All those things, while an IT person fixes it, and more than likely your IT person will need help doing that, still the cascading effects of that attack, whether it's a tornado, whether it's a fire, whether it's a cyber attack, all of that is at leadership level. And a lot of times when I was responding to cyber incidents on behalf of DHS and behalf of the state, a lot of times I would walk in the room and the leadership is in the corner freaking out because they're like, I didn't know I'd be involved in this. I didn't know that I'd need to make these decisions. Like, holy crap, we are not prepared, right? And that's a lot of what I think that Five Eyes on AI is that now the time has decreased. You're going to get hit, right? AI is going to help the bad guys hit us more. So how are you as leaders getting prepared for that collectively and not just throwing it to the IT department?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really fascinating. So I have a business. I recruit a bunch of folks to my board of directors, and I'm choosing them based on a number of criteria. Some of these people I probably know, or they're experts in the thing that I do, or they're experts in finance, something like that. But cybersecurity is such a relatively new art form, if you will, or a relatively new aspect of business. I'm probably not thinking about that when I'm putting people on my board.
No.
Like I need to have a cybersecurity committee for my board, probably.
Yeah, that's always a very good best practice. Or at the very least, even sometimes it's not even cybersecurity professionals in the sense of just I'm good at cyber, because there's so many facets to cybersecurity. Like for what I do for clients is like I'm not a ones and zeros person. I am a people person. I'm an expert at people. I'm an expert at organizational psychology. I'm an expert in emergency management. And I also do cyber. So when I come to clients and I'm working with their leadership, I'm working with their chief information officer or security officer, we're taking a step back and saying, how do we prepare your leadership and your business to be affected by a cyber attack, right? And that, you're right, it changes the way that you start thinking about it because it's no longer a ones and zeros problem. It's a risk problem, right? It's a how are we prepared for a tornado to hit us? How are we prepared for, I don't know, a pandemic to hit us, right? Like, because that's never happened, right?
No, that only happens in movies.
I remember being at DHS and it was just always this like hanging threat and everybody's like, oh, that's never going to happen. And then bam, right? Like, and then nobody was ready. Everybody was moving everybody remote. Security became an issue because everybody was like using crappy passwords in their routers at home. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the way, don't ever use that.
Yeah.
So really cybersecurity becomes so much of an operational risk. It becomes a financial risk. It becomes a legal risk, a regulatory risk. It is just not IT anymore. And a lot of times IT professionals are put in this unfair spot where they're in charge of something that they have no control over, right? I talk to a lot of chief information security officers and security officers, and they're like, my leadership just looks at me and says, I'm in charge of this. When I know the only thing I'm going to be in charge of during a cyber attack is trying to fix the cyber security issue. I'm not in charge of any of the other things, but yet they think I am until it happens. And I always tell people, I always tell leaders, I'm like, do you want your IT person talking to the media? Do you want your IT person talking to your board? Do you want your IT person setting the stage? And they're like, no, like, you know, with your employees, I'm like, then it's you, right? And this is how you can prepare ahead of time and get resilient now. So when it does happen, because it will, especially with the invention of AI and how bad actors are using AI, then you really do need to refocus how you even see cybersecurity in your organization.
So I'm the owner of a medium-sized business. Let's say I got 50 employees. I've got Tim, who's in charge of, and he's got, you know, Allison and Becky. For us, that's a pretty big department already. And what is Five Eyes telling me to do? I get this telling me not to just tell Tim, okay, if something goes wrong, you're in charge. What should I be doing?
I think the first thing when you get that alert, and I imagine you're sharing this alert online as well, since we're referencing it a lot. But when you get that alert as a leader, you need to pull that alert down, get your IT person, get your operations person in the room, get your legal person in the room. It needs to be bigger than just your IT. Get your risk officer, get your COO, and say, if we go down, do we have the capacity even internally right now to figure out what we do and put that plan together and tabletop exercise it together? And a lot of times people don't, because IT people, I also think it's unfair in the sense that an IT person who's always been in charge of networking things, setting up your computer, setting up your service providers so that we're all using the most efficient and effective tools that we can to be successful in our business, it's like they're all doctors. Let's take it that way, bigger picture. They're all doctors, right? An ITO may be a heart surgeon. You look at your cybersecurity information officer as the dentist, right? All doctors, but you don't want the dentist working on your heart, and you don't want your heart work being worked on by the dentist. There's a lot of specialities and knowledge there that sometimes they do need the help. And so from a leadership perspective, I think the question you need to be asking is, do you have the capacity and the background to do this well? They very much have enough information to be dangerous and to do it enough day to day, but to go deep into how can we be more resilient? And the answer will probably be more like, no, we need probably some more help, or another cybersecurity specialist or somebody more, or maybe we hire a consultant and bring them in to help us not only look over our program to see with the 5 eyes, how can we be better and more resilient, right? And how can we better defend? But how can we prepare for the bad day, right? And because it just takes a different kind of background for that.
What forms do these attacks usually take?
How so? You mean like?
Yeah, I mean, what does it look like to me as the owner of the company, and
right?
And I get the call and say we just been attacked. What is the thing or things that is most likely to have happened?
How many employees does this company have of yours?
We got 50.
You got 50 employees. Yeah. All right, so you have 50 points of weakness. Yes, I know we're in trouble.
Yeah,
I know. Last I saw, as far as statistics from the Verizon report, which oversees just their perspective of how people get through attacks, it's people. Like 90% of attacks, it comes through people. It comes through clicking that damn link that everybody's like, why do I keep on getting tested? It's because it comes through that way, right? Or going to a website and somebody in your IT, because people don't like to be limited, they're told, well, we just got to give everybody access to everything. Access to everything sometimes means you get access to the bad things. Right.
So the bad actor is trying to get access to my system.
Yes.
And once the bad actor has access, what is that person trying to do typically? What are the ways that...
It depends on the actor. You have nation states like China who likes to come into your system and just sit in your system and take in all your information. Cyber attacks doesn't always mean the big skull and crossbones and like what we see on TV and you've been attacked, here's your ransomware. Most certainly ransomware is a big thing, right? And that for destruction and money gain, that's a huge element of cyber attacks, right? They want to make money. They're very good at it. They literally have buildings of call centers to do this. It is a very profitable, evil business. And we allow them because people make the mistakes, right? It's usually not even the technology of it. So you have the ransomware where we want money. So we're going to hold your systems and you give us money, or we destroy your systems and we just move on to the next victim, right? Very profitable, very good. Then you have the nation state area where they come and they sit in your system and they take in all your proprietary information, all your employees' information, all the communications that you may not want out there, all the information that would really honestly create and destroy your company. In addition to everyone that you connect to in your company, right? So let's say you are a lobbyist firm, so you think, oh, cybersecurity has nothing to do with me. Well, if you're doing very sensitive discussions with utility companies that you work with, then they're very interested in you, right? They want to know, especially if that utility company is talking to you about these regulations, but this is an area of weakness, but we don't want to be regulated, or we need to be regulated in this, but what utility company wants to say that, right? So, you have points of intersection of getting critical information is very important. So don't think because you aren't a critical infrastructure, if you're connected to critical infrastructure, being utilities, water, healthcare, schools, local governments, transportation, communications, there's 16 of them, right? So there's that. And then the other one is to just purely destroy. And we saw that with the war on Iran in the last several months, where they have come in and they go after water companies, or they go after towns, or they go after cities and government, and they're just aiming to destroy. They don't want ransomware. They're not going to sit on your system. They're just going to go in and just...
I'm sorry, when you say they, who is they?
They being the bad actor, whether it's Iran, China, Russia, or just a very sophisticated cyber group. Like
an enterprise group.
Oh, they're very enterprising. Yes, they're doing really good business, unfortunately. And then the final thing is fund fraud. So they social engineer, talking to your CFO, The CFO thinks she's talking, she or he is talking to the COO or CEO saying, hey, we need to change these numbers right away because they used AI to do a deep fake, which is very easy to do nowadays. It's no longer like, remember when they did the deep fake with Tom Cruise and it was everywhere like many years ago, and everybody's like, holy crap, that's crazy, right? Because they used AI to like basically have him say and do anything, and it was like a huge social media hit. So, including jumping on couches for some reason. So, but now you really can. We share so much information about ourselves online, right? Like myself, like I had to call my mom and say, hey, there's a lot of YouTube videos of me speaking about cybersecurity. Somebody could easily do something with my stuff. So I called her and I said, if I call you saying, wire me money because I'm in trouble, and she's my mom. Of course, she's going to be like, I want to help you. I told her, I was like, we have a secret word. And you hang up, you ask for the secret word. If they're like, what? Hang up. And either way, hang up again. Because if it was me, it'd be coming another way, coming for my husband and be coming from it. So it really goes and expands across all boards. So the fraud elements for businesses, the fraud element for the elderly, and it really does. It just affects every element of our life now.
Okay, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. This is the IBJ Podcast.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Building a home or looking to upgrade what you already have? That's where Indy Grills comes in. From fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, to entire custom patios, we bring everything together to create spaces designed for how you actually live. We work directly with homeowners and partner with custom home builders to get it right from the very start. Are you looking for inspiration? Our massive showroom on the Zionsville-Lebanon border was built to help you see what's possible. So when you're ready to elevate your space, head to indygrills.com and connect with our team.
All right, we're back with this week's episode of the IBJ Podcast and my interview with Chetrice Romero about how to prepare for cybersecurity threats as AI evolves. So, okay, I'm back to being the owner of the 50-person company.
Yeah.
My brother's got a 25-person company, and we're sitting at dinner talking about this. And he goes, I got 25 employees. I'm too small. I mean, bad actors, they still have to invest time and money in their attacks. Why on earth would they go after my chain of 3 ice cream stores?
Yes. That's a great question. Yeah. I get that all the time too. And here's what I tell people. They aren't thinking about little town in Indiana, little business in Indiana. You're right. They're not thinking about your 25-person thing.
Yeah.
What they are thinking about is there is a technology that everyone is using, right? Let's say Microsoft, or let's say Facebook, or whatever the case may be. There is a technology that everybody is using, and they create code with AI, so they don't even have to be coders anymore, right? Mm-hmm. It's done in seconds. And all they do is hit a button, and it goes and knocks on every door. That's what happens, right? So no, they're not necessarily creating dossiers on your company, but they can now very easily with AI if they wanted to. And they most certainly are using AI when that code is going and knocking on all those doors, which you have many doors. And if you use the internet, there's a lot of doors to your organization on the outside. And once they get in the door, now they're using AI to say, oh, this little 25%, or 25 employee business, they do really good. They have some money. Well, we won't get $1 million, but we'll get $100,000, or we'll get $150,000, or even $10,000. Still very profitable, right? Money's money. So they'll go and lock in your system. There was a small company, and it breaks my heart because this happens with small and medium-sized organizations, especially ones with not a lot of people, where they will go in and they'll ransom when the company's like, I don't have that much money. All right, well, then they just corrupt all your data and they just move on. It's that easy. And there was this company in Northern Indiana that it was the day before Christmas. And they literally put out a sign the day after Christmas. Employees came up to the door thinking, all right, it's time to go back to work. There's a sign from the owner saying we're closed indefinitely due to a ransomware attack and we aren't able to pay you.
Wow.
This is here in Indiana, small town business. And then they were done. And it is devastating Because the thing about cybersecurity is there's so many easy ways to prevent that, right? It doesn't have to be somebody super technical to fix things. It can be as simple as that annoying multi-factor authentication that you have to send to your phone. You knew I was going to mention it.
Stop.
You knew it. Right? I know. We all hate it. Or when they make you change your passwords and it has to be complicated.
Going to the app to get the
yes.
authenticating.
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
That is worse. I don't mind the text.
I do this for a living and I still am like, I don't have time for this if I'm in a hurry, right? But multi-factor authentication, complex passwords, changing your passwords regularly, not clicking a link, that literally takes care of 80% of attacks. It's crazy how much that takes care of it.
Simple.
Yeah, it is very simple. So when people are like, one of the things in that 5 I's is secure by design and secure by default. What does that mean, right? Because they throw that in there and you're like, people don't understand what that means. What that means is you're using software that automatically, by default, says you have to use multi-factor authentication. You have to change your passwords every 90 days. And people don't like that. People try to go in and try to fix that. But the reason why that advisory says those specific things is because that takes care of so much of the issues.
Are the small and medium-sized companies the most vulnerable? Am I
100%?
Okay.
Yes.
Because we only hear, we don't only hear, but we hear about the big companies.
Oh, yeah.
That get they get hacked. I think I was part of the Anthem hack like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. You've been part of a lot more hacks than that. Let me just tell you.
Thank you. So it's a wonder that I'm still here.
Keep an eye on your credit.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, there you go. That's the thing that scares me the most. Just as a consumer who has some investments, my investments exist. It seems like out there in the ether somewhere.
Yep.
Some computer says I have this much money. Some computer says I have that much money. My fear is that AI is going to get really good, so good that it's going to infiltrate big financial institutions.
Yeah.
And it's essentially just going to wipe out my money and the way that, we conduct business. Should I legitimately be worried, or should I think, boy, if anybody has robust cybersecurity and is totally up to date, it's those guys?
You should be worried.
Okay.
I know it's early in the morning, so I can't really say take a really nice long sip of wine or bourbon. But yes, I do that a lot at night, though. No, I would say you should be worried. And as a consumer of those products, you should be asking them, how are you protecting my information? And I think it's worth mentioning, a lot of those financial institutions now have regulation in place that requires them to report it, that requires them to have the best of the best practices. Does everybody do it? I would say compliance does not equal security. So sometimes organizations will spend a lot of money to make sure that they do exactly what they need to do and not necessarily what they should be doing to secure the information the best that they can. A lot of times that compliance and those regulations, that's the minimum. And sometimes organizations, financial institutions, because they're in the business of money, right? So why do they want to spend more money? Like, hey, we've done the minimum. And it's frustrating sometimes because, I've talked to organizations that size that have the staff, have the resources, have the money. I would say being in public service for 20 years before my role at Ice Miller, I sometimes get very frustrated because I'm like, oh my gosh, if that little water utility had like a fraction of your budget, they wouldn't be questioning how minimum we have to do it. They'd be trying to do everything because they worry about it and they don't have it, right? It's the have-nots and haves, right? But I would also remember that, like, while they are regulated, it is very important as a cyber advisor that I tell people when I talk to them, compliance doesn't equal security all the time. That we need to do better than just the minimum that regulators are telling us to do because of these evolving threats, right? Regulation takes years to do. So current regulation right now is not considering the 5 I's alert, for example, right?
Right.
They're not considering that, we might need to change our regulation in several years. Several years is going to be too late. So we need to be defensive about things now and be considerate of the emerging technologies now as a business owner. And not because it's the right thing to do, although I would say that should be the reason. But if you're looking at it from a money perspective, you're going to lose more money through the higher risk of a cyber attack because of AI, for example, or because of the bad actors being able to do things a lot more efficiently. So you're going to lose money. Why are you going to lose money in the post when you can spend a fraction of that now and do the best that you can? And even the companies that do the best that they can will still get attacked. And that's why a lot of that, and I also, for myself, I really talk to clients not about just getting secure, but it's so much more important nowadays to be resilient. And what does that mean? That means, how are you as a leadership in your company ready for a cyber attack? And have you tested it? A lot of people are like, oh, I have a cyber incident response plan. And I'm like, when was the last time you tabletop exercised that with somebody? And they're like, oh, well, we've never done that. Well, then you don't have a cyber incident response plan. You have a good draft on a shelf that no one knows about, maybe 2 people. And guess what? On a bad day, that plan is probably not very good, because it's been, last time it was updated was 3 years ago, right? And a lot of times that is the case when I come into incidents is, oh, we had a plan, but we had to throw it out the first 5 minutes because everything in it was outdated, or it doesn't consider the current technologies that we have now, or it just hasn't been tested and none of it makes sense in a real attack.
So let's handle my question first. I have investments.
Mm-hmm.
This one brokerage has some of it over. Those guys have some of it over there. The only thing I know to do is to print out all my what do you call them?
Statements?
Thank you. Statements. I was
Yes.
thinking status updates. No,
Yes.
statements. Is that
Yeah,
going to make a difference?
Having a saved copy of your statements on your, even in I like the print idea.
Yeah.
Everything is hacked, right? But even, having it printed on your computer, right? And backed up to, your Google Cloud or whatever cloud you're using, right? Is better, because if something happens, they're like, we don't have anything. Now, they have a lot of backup systems. There are some things there. But I'm always very big on, when cybersecurity, what can you control, right? And that's kind of what you're asking, is what can you control? So 2 things that you can do. From a resiliency perspective, know what you have and have that documented, exactly what you said. The other element is, how are you protecting yourself in those situations, right? So if somebody was able to get access to that financial institution where all that money you've been saving so that you can take that island vacation, or you can retire on an island, which is my goal, then what can you do to protect that? Are you using multi-factor? Because sometimes they require it and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, mine do now.
Okay, good. Yeah, a lot of times they're required now to do it. The other one is, the password you're using for that, is it the same password you also use for everything else?
Nope.
Is it your is it your pet's name? Is it your, is it your favorite sports thing? Because those are brute force attacks, meaning that a bad actor can these are all the normal things, and now they can do it in milliseconds, right? So to be able to access your account. So the thing is sometimes the attack doesn't happen on the big guy. Sometimes the attack, it's easier for them to steal your money and all those other account money, because you didn't do good cybersecurity on your side.
Right.
So don't ever be the reason why, because guess what? The financial institutions are like, well, I mean, that's on you, not us. And that's a very unfortunate, uncomfortable conversation, right? Like, and it really breaks my heart, because a lot of there's been so many people who have lost their 401ks and their investments because they have terrible passwords and somebody was able to get in. Or even if they had multi-factor authentication, it's on their Yahoo account. And that password, by the way, is the same password they used for their 401k account. So they're able to get into the Yahoo account. They're able to get into their 401k account. They can then say, oh, yeah, send the multi-factor to my Yahoo account that I have control over. Oh, look, I already know the code. I can get in, and then I can transfer all the money out.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of recourse for people when that happens. And so people just lose all their money. I've personally ran into very nice Walmart greeters who are in their 60s, 70s. And I'm just a person that likes to talk to people. And I love to hear their stories. But there have been a number of them where, like, I lost my 401k to a scam. And now I have to do this the rest of my life. Oh, and by the way, I was an engineer, or I was a doctor. And that is real stories. That is real people I've come across. That's not something I read. That is really, really, there's no really recourse for that. You can't call the FBI for a single person. Mm-hmm. You can go put in a report, but there's not a lot that you can do in those situations. So for anybody who has aging parents, make sure to talk to them to make sure they have good passwords. And that's not the same password. And if somebody calls and they need money, to tell them to call you first, because that happens a lot more than you think.
Okay. Wow. So how do you sleep at night?
So much wine. Yes, it is a very stressful job, but it's a very rewarding job. I find that a lot of IT cyber people struggle to simplify it for the regular person, and I've been lucky to have experience that allows me to kind of take things that are complicated and simplify things. Because, I think that's a lot of what it is. It's education, and it's telling people what can they effectively do. Sometimes we throw everything at everybody. And you're like, it's too overwhelming, it's too complicated. And so what do? We just move on to the next thing because our spans, at least my span, I'm like, and I'm lost. All right, well, I'm going to go on to something I can control. So that's what I try to do. I try to simplify it as much as I can.
Yeah. So my memory is that you received a bachelor's degree in communications from Indiana University, Indianapolis, which wasn't that at the time. It was IUPUI.
It was.
Okay. In 2007. What was your plan with that degree?
Well, I actually have two. I have communication studies and public relations at the School of Journalism. Because I remember in my second year of my comms degree, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to wait tables with this degree.
What's wrong with that? That's what I did.
I did that before. That's why I remember. I was like, So I was like, I need to go and get something that's more specific. And I took a public relations class and I took a marketing class. And I loved my public relations class so much more than the marketing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on this public relations. I love the idea of understanding the organizational psychology. I was already working on a minor in psychology and sociology. So I already had just an interest in people and why they think and do what they do and what's their behavior like in their personal lives versus in their business lives. So yeah, so I started off, it's so funny. I go talk to students all the time. And, I always ask, how many of you think I have an IT degree? They're all like, you're the cyber director of the state or you're the cyber advisor for Homeland Security. You have to have, right? No, I started off in public relations, working with media, working with internal communications, external communications, education campaigns, and then it moved into cyber. I was in Utility Regulatory Commission executive director. That was when I did public relations. I did legislation.
That's
Indiana.
What we call the IURC for Indiana, which has been in the news lately.
I heard.
Yeah. Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission,
yes.
Right? And then you were
I was the executive director. Of external affairs.
And is that where cybersecurity really became an issue for your professional life?
Yes, yeah. No surprise, but Russia attacked Ukraine's power grid. It's not much changed since then, since the many years I did that. And so what scared everybody was that federally, the energy utilities were they're one of the most regulated industries. And for good reason, right? We like our power. As a society, we would not do well without power. I think people take it for granted how much work goes into flipping that switch. But what really scared us was Ukraine's grid is similar to our grid. So they were like, holy crap, it took them down for a month. And we're like, that would not go well here. So regulation increased significantly around the cybersecurity side.
Here in America.
Yeah. And I got, I was part of those discussions. We had a couple of commissioners that had a lot of interest in that. A lot of my job was to be able to support them in those initiatives and then figure out how to communicate with utilities, but then communicate with the ratepayers and, communicate with even our staff on why does this matter, right? Because cybersecurity, the word itself is scary, right? People want to turn away from it because they're like, I'm not an IT person. I won't understand that. When I realized that cybersecurity, while it sounds technical, is actually 100% a people issue, then I use my PR degree more than I use any of my certificates I've gotten from Purdue in it because.
But I would bet when you would go in to see some clients and they're inevitably somebody's going to ask where did you study cybersecurity?
Mm-hmm.
And then in their mind, there's a credibility gap.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to them?
Well, I've done some certificates with Purdue on cybersecurity, network security, threat hunting. So I do have some technical chops. And when I was at CISA, DHS, I was able to really get some more. There's an accreditation called ISACA that I'm actually working on getting the test on the big accreditation, which is a level 4, which is a high accreditation. But, I really it's interesting. Only when I took on the cybersecurity program role, I don't get asked that very much. And people know my background. I think even the cybersecurity people know that their greatest threat is people. And they know I have all this technical knowledge, but I am struggling on getting this through to the people in my organization. So when I come into the mix with my clients, I believe I really offer a different value set. I'm not out there to replace the security officer. I'm out there to help the security officer. I'm not there to tell the CEO how terrible their chief information officer, chief information security officer is. I'm there to say, hey, I know that they've been telling you this, but let me explain it to you this way. And oh, by the way, it's your job, not their job to be resilient in cybersecurity. So that, I think, if anything, I think because of my diverse background and then still have the technical chops to have real discussions with the tech people, but then I don't get lost in that and I can talk business strategy and operations with the business people. And then you add the extra bonus that through my career, I also have been trained in emergency management and FEMA. Again, that organizational psychology of how do people act and how do organizations act during bad situations. It's a really nice combination to be able to say, this is how you can be more cyber resilient and support your technology department, not throw it all at your technology department.
You mentioned FEMA, and it has briefly escaped me the name of this tragedy.
Surfside,
right.
It happened. Yesterday was the 5th year.
Okay, remind me what that was.
So it was, unfortunately, I was part of the Indiana Task Force 1, which is a FEMA-led urban search and rescue team. So
it's based here in Indiana.
Yeah, multiple states have it. We have an amazing team here in Indiana. And so we were deployed, and I had been training and working with them for a number of years prior to that deployment. Surfside was a building collapse. Almost 100 people were lost in that collapse that happened in the middle of the night due to structural issues. Unfortunately, we weren't able to recover. We were only able to recover people to get them back to their loved ones to say the proper goodbye. It was a very hard but life-changing experience because there's something about going into a situation like that and helping with the rubble. And I wasn't a tech person. I'm a cyber person, but in that role, I was not. I was a person who assisted in the rubble and identifying personal identifiable information to see, okay, we're seeing papers and we're seeing ID cards because of how the building collapsed. We were trying to identify, okay, now we're on this floor, right? And we should be finding...
Oh, yes. We should excavating.
Yeah, we're
right.
excavating. Yeah. And so we're now on this floor and the way it fell, okay, we should be looking at the plans. We should be coming into the bedroom in this area. And then sure enough, we'd find the unfortunate souls that were lost on that floor. So
as a member of the task force, would you typically be more involved in the technical side of things? So this was...
Just purely a side kind of a passion of just search and rescue. And I most certainly helped them make sure that they had good passwords on things. I remember coming in, I'm like, oh, we need to change those passwords. But no, my role in that was much more FEMA, urban search rescue, emergency management knowledge, which again, in building resiliency in organizations, I use every day. And then going through such a tragedy that really impacts a community and it impacts it changes you, it changes the community. It really does give life perspective as to these people had plans the next day. They were in their homes, they were in their beds with their families and their kids, and then this awful thing happened and life was gone, right? And so it was a very sad but impactful experience that I'm grateful for, but I, of course, wish it never was the situation.
What kind of impact did you notice it had on you?
I would say that ever since then, I've become a recovering A+ personality. I was very much in PR, right? You're all about controlling the messaging and your lists. And I was a very big to-do list person. And I think there was a specific situation. One of the very first things I picked in the rubble was a baby book. And it was the exact same baby book that I had for my son. Oh man, I just remember sitting there for like a brief second. And when you're in the situation, it's awful, but you're mission focused. And it's a very unique thing. First responders, man, they are some of the most amazing people because the way that they can be mission focused through the worst of things, that's why it affects them so much afterwards, because then they have to decompress. But in the moment, everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. No one's breaking down, because that's not what's needed at that moment. The moment is to recover. Hopefully, when we first got there, hopefully save somebody. We unfortunately couldn't. But so for me, it was very much a perspective of life, of seeing that book and taking my breath away. I still remember it. Or seeing two souls that, held each other, and we covered them holding each other still. It really makes you think, like, you can be in your safest of safe spaces, and something tragic, life is short, and, you should really be grateful for everything around you, and also have purpose with what you do in your life, because you just never know. Time is precious.
And this was a sideline, being on the task force.
It was.
To what your
normal day job was.
I don't want to say day job. What was your day job at the time?
Cybersecurity program director for Governor Holcomb.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep.
Speaking of politics, I had a whole set of questions here related to election security.
Yeah.
But I'm so interested in what we were talking about that I'm going to propose that we revisit this in about a month.
I would love that.
And we talk about election security, because
it's an important topic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to make people listen to 90 minutes.
Fair.
I'm good for like the drive home, and that's about it.
That's
for
about
me.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay.
I love podcasts for drive homes.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. So let's schedule something for about a month that we can talk about the general election.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Thanks for dropping by.
Yes.
And we'll set it up.
All right. That sounds great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My thanks again to Chetrice Romero. And folks, before you get on with the rest of your week, there are several stories in this week's issue of IBJ I want to draw to your attention. First up, Indy-based Elanco Animal Health is among the companies taking a leading role in combating the reemergence of a deadly parasitic fly that was pushed out of the United States 6 decades ago. Daniel Bradley explains how Elanco is taking on the screwworm. Also in this week's issue, Susan Orr delves into the state's initiative to accelerate the use of AI by Indiana businesses. And Taylor Wooten explains efforts to increase the flow of educators into math and science classrooms. And again, you can find these stories in the latest print edition of IBJ or online at IBJ.com. I will say it is quite a bit easier to access all the latest business news and all of IBJ's data on Central Indiana's business community and economy if you're a subscriber. We're running a promotion right now that gives you complete access for $1 per week for 3 months, just to get a sense of how valuable and original our content is. Just go to IBJ.com and click on the subscribe button. And thanks again for making time this week for the IBJ Podcast. I'm Mason King. Hang in there, everybody. We'll be back again next week. Man, what the frick?
Hi, I'm Dave Neff, host of Talent Scout. On this show, we shine a light on Indiana's next generation of leaders who are making a difference in business, community, and civic life. These are real conversations about purpose, mentorship, and building a future that matters. Join me as we invest in leadership that lasts. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app or listen at IBJpodcast.com.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media Podcast Network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at IBJ.com to learn more.